Welcome to the deep dive. You know I love ancient Egypt, so I'm super excited for today's topic.
Me too. I think we're gonna have some fun with this.
We are diving into the Book of the Dead.
Ooh.
You sent in this fascinating 1882 French translation.
Oh, yeah.
Le Livre des Morts des Anciens Égyptiens.pdf.
It's a classic. And it's really cool to see how they approached translating this complex text back then.
Yeah, so for our listeners who haven't encountered the Book of the Dead before, can you give us a little background? Like, what is it exactly?
It's not actually a book in the way we think of it today. It's more like a collection of spells and prayers that were meant to guide the deceased through the afterlife.
So kind of like a guidebook for the hereafter?
Exactly. A combination of a travel guide and a magical toolkit all rolled into one.
I love that.
Yeah.
And to add another layer of intrigue, our source material is translated by Paul Pira,
Oh, yes.
curator of the Egyptian Museum at the Louvre.
Talk about an expert. Pire had access to an unbelievable collection of artifacts and texts, and his work really helped to shape our understanding of ancient Egyptian culture.
Okay, so we've got this collection of spells and prayers meant for the afterlife, translated by a leading expert in the field. But what exactly was the purpose of all this? Did ancient Egyptians just read this before bed for a good scare?
Huh. Not quite.
Okay.
The Book of the Dead was really all about ensuring a smooth transition into the afterlife.
It's like a cheat sheet for navigating the underworld.
Exactly. The ancient Egyptians believed that death wasn't the end, but the beginning of a whole new journey. And this journey was filled with dangers and challenges.
That's intense.
It was. And the Book of the Dead provided the deceased with the knowledge and magical tools to navigate this unfamiliar territory.
Okay, so tell me more about these challenges. What kind of obstacles did they believe they would face in the afterlife?
Well, think about it. You've just died, and your soul is embarking on a perilous journey through the underworld, a realm filled with treacherous landscapes and fearsome creatures.
Wow. That sounds a bit like an Indiana Jones movie.
Huh.
You know?
I guess you could say that, but the stakes were much higher. Eternal life was on the line.
No pressure?
Right. The Book of the Dead was there to guide the deceased through these dangerous territories. It was packed with spells to ward off serpents, quench thirst in scorching deserts, appease the gods, and overcome a whole host of other obstacles. Each spell was like a key, unlocking a new stage of the journey.
And we're talking about some pretty high-stakes challenges here, right? Like the weighing of the heart ceremony.
Ah, yes. The ultimate test.
That's where the deceased's heart would be weighed against the feather of Maat, the goddess of truth and justice. Talk about pressure.
It was a judgment of their moral character, a reckoning of their deeds in life. Their fate in the afterlife hung in the balance.
I can only imagine the nerves.
Uh-huh.
So the Book of the Dead provided a roadmap, a set of instructions and spells to navigate this perilous journey and hopefully achieve eternal life.
Exactly. It was a source of comfort and guidance in the face of the ultimate unknown.
It's fascinating how much detail they put into mapping out this afterlife experience. It gives us such a vivid glimpse into their belief system, their fears, their hopes, and their understanding of the cosmos.
It really does. And it also highlights the interconnectedness of life and death in their culture. The way they lived their lives was directly linked to their beliefs about what awaited them in the afterlife.
It's like their moral compass was calibrated to the afterlife.
Precisely. And this brings us to another intriguing question. How unique were these beliefs? Did other cultures have similar ideas about death and the afterlife?
That's a great question, because when you think about it, the idea of some kind of existence beyond this life is a pretty universal concept.
Absolutely. Throughout history and across cultures, we see a recurring fascination with the afterlife and what it might entail.
You're right. From the ancient Greeks with their underworld ruled by Hades to the concept of reincarnation found in various Eastern religions, it seems the human imagination has always sought to grapple with the mysteries of death and what lies beyond.
And that raises a fascinating question. What does this universal fascination with the afterlife tell us about the human experience?
Whoa, big question. Is it a longing for immortality? A way to cope with the finality of death? Or perhaps a deep-seated need to believe that our existence has meaning beyond our earthly lives?
Those are questions for the ages, and I think exploring texts like the Book of the Dead can offer us some profound insights into how different cultures have approached this universal human experience.
I completely agree. Okay, so we've established that the Book of the Dead is this incredible collection of spells and prayers meant to guide the deceased through the afterlife. But let's zoom out for a second and talk about the context of our source material. Le Livre des Morts des Anciens Égyptiens.pdf, is part of a series called the Bibliothèque Orientale Elzevirienne.
Ah, yes. A fascinating series in itself.
Tell us more about it. What's the significance of this series?
Well, the Bibliothèque Orientale Elzevirienne was renowned for publishing high-quality scholarly works on Oriental subjects during the 19th century.
So this was a time when interest in ancient Egypt and other Eastern cultures was really starting to take off in Europe.
Exactly. And this series played a significant role in fueling that fascination. It made these ancient texts and ideas accessible to a wider audience.
So it wasn't just for stuffy academics then.
Not at all. Imagine the impact of these translations, opening up a world of mystery and ancient wisdom to a public eager to learn more about these fascinating civilizations.
It's like opening a portal to another world.
Exactly. It helped shape popular perceptions of ancient Egypt and fueled further exploration and research.
This is incredible. We've got this ancient text translated by a leading Egyptologist, published as part of a prestigious series that helped spark a whole wave of interest in ancient Egypt. It's like peeling back the layers of history and uncovering a hidden world.
And we're just getting started. There's so much more to uncover within the pages of the Book of the Dead.
I can't wait. Now, to get a real feel for this text, let's dive into a specific passage. This one's from chapter 99, a spell for transforming into a hawk. Are you ready for this?
Absolutely. Bring it on.
All right, here it is. Je suis le grand forçant, l'homme de chou, qui se dirige vers le ciel, qui sort des ténèbres, qui voit la lumière de Ra. Even in French, you can feel the power of these words.
The imagery is so vivid, and the references to Chu, the god of air, and Ra, the sun god, show how deeply intertwined their religious beliefs were with their understanding of death and the afterlife.
It's not just about escaping death, it's about becoming something more, something divine. What does this passage tell us about the kind of afterlife the ancient Egyptians envisioned?
Well, it points to a belief in transformation and ascension. The deceased, by invoking these gods and taking on the form of a hawk, is striving to transcend their mortal limitations and join the eternal cycle of the cosmos.
Wow, that's a powerful image. It's not just about survival, it's about achieving a higher state of being, becoming part of something much grander than themselves.
Exactly, and it highlights the importance of knowledge and spiritual practice in their belief system. The spells in the Book of the Dead were not just practical guides for navigating the afterlife, but also a means of attaining spiritual enlightenment.
So it's like their version of self-help, a guide to living a life worthy of a glorious afterlife.
In a way, yes. It's a fascinating blend of practical instructions and profound spiritual insights, and it speaks to the human desire for something more, a longing for transcendence that seems to resonate across cultures and throughout time.
This is incredible. We've only just scratched the surface, but already the Book of the Dead is revealing so much about the ancient Egyptians' worldview, their beliefs, and their aspirations.
And there's much more to come. We'll continue our exploration of the Book of the Dead right after this.
Welcome back to our deep dive into the Book of the Dead. Before we jump back in, I wanted to touch on something we were discussing earlier about how beliefs about the afterlife might influence actions in life. Yeah, it's really fascinating to think about how the ancient Egyptians might have lived their lives differently because of what they believed awaited them after death.
Exactly. If you truly believe that your heart is going to be weighed against the feather of Ma'at,
Right.
wouldn't that encourage you to live a more just and ethical life?
Yeah, it's like having a cosmic accountability system.
Precisely. And that brings us to another fascinating aspect of the Book of the Dead, the concept of the Ba.
Okay, the Ba, now remind me, what was the Ba again?
So the Ba was a part of the soul
Okay.
that the ancient Egyptians believed could travel between the worlds of the living and the dead. And it was often depicted as a bird with a human head, symbolizing its ability to move freely between these realms.
So it's like a spiritual double, a link between the deceased and the world they left behind.
Precisely. The Ba could visit the tomb, receive offerings from relatives, and even interact with the living world.
That's both comforting and a little eerie, isn't it? Imagine your loved one's Ba still hanging around checking in on you.
It definitely adds another dimension to the idea of mourning and remembrance. But on a deeper level, I think the Ba emphasizes the continued connection between the living and the dead in ancient Egyptian culture.
It's not just about honoring the dead, it's about maintaining an ongoing relationship with them.
Exactly. And this connection also had practical implications. The ancient Egyptians believed that the deceased relied on the support of the living through offerings and rituals to thrive in the afterlife.
So it's like a reciprocal relationship. The living on the dead and the dead through their bev could potentially offer guidance and protection to their descendants.
It's a beautiful concept, isn't it? This interconnectedness between life and death, underscores the importance of community and family, even beyond the realm of the living.
It makes you think about how our own beliefs about death and the afterlife might shape our relationships with those who've passed on. Do we still feel that same sense of connection? Or has our modern perspective created a greater separation between the living and the dead?
That's a profound question. Perhaps exploring the Book of the Dead can offer us some insights into how different cultures have approached this universal human experience.
I agree. Okay, so we've talked about the weighing of the heart, but what other challenges did the deceased face on their journey through the afterlife?
Well, picture this. You've just passed away, and your soul embarks on this perilous journey through the underworld.
Okay.
A realm filled with treacherous landscapes and fearsome creatures.
It sounds intense.
It was a thrilling adventure, but with incredibly high stakes. Eternal life was on the line,
Right.
and the Book of the Dead provided a map guiding the deceased through this dangerous territory.
And it was packed with spells to help them overcome these obstacles.
Absolutely. There were spells to ward off serpents, quench thirst in scorching deserts, and even appease the gods who guarded the gates to the afterlife. Each spell was like a key unlocking a new stage of the journey.
It's incredible how much detail they put into mapping out this afterlife experience.
And I think those details reveal not only their beliefs about the afterlife, but also their understanding of the world around them. For example, the spells dealing with navigating treacherous deserts
Right.
reflect the very real challenges of living in a land dominated by arid landscapes.
It makes sense. The Book of the Dead is like a window into their worldview, their fears, their hopes, and their understanding of the natural world.
Precisely. And by studying these spells, we can gain a deeper understanding of their culture, their values, even their psychology.
It's like cracking a code, deciphering an ancient language that reveals not just instructions for the afterlife, but insights into the very heart of ancient Egyptian civilization.
Exactly. And there's one spell in particular that I think offers a fascinating glimpse into their moral code, the negative confession.
Okay, negative confession. I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
So, during the weighing of the heart ceremony, the deceased would recite a list of actions they had not committed in life.
Oh, interesting. So instead of confessing their sins, they were proclaiming their innocence.
Precisely. It wasn't about admitting guilt, but rather about affirming one's adherence to Ma, the principle of truth, justice, and cosmic order.
It's like they were presenting their case to the divine judges, emphasizing their good deeds and their commitment to living a righteous life.
That's a great way to put it. And this concept of Ma is central to ancient Egyptian thought. It wasn't just about personal morality, but about upholding a cosmic balance, a harmony between the human and the divine.
It's fascinating how their beliefs about the afterlife were so intertwined with their ideas about ethics and morality in this life.
Absolutely. The Book of the Dead wasn't just a guide for navigating death, but also a blueprint for living a life worthy of a blessed afterlife. It reminds us that for the ancient Egyptians, life and death were not separate spheres, but part of a continuous cycle, a cosmic journey with profound implications for both the living and the dead.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We're wrapping up our exploration of the Book of the Dead, and I have to say it's been an incredible journey.
It really has. The Book of the Dead offers such a unique window into the ancient Egyptian worldview.
Right. We've talked about the spells, the rituals, the moral code, but there's another dimension to this text that I think we should touch on. It's artistic beauty.
Ah, yes. The Book of the Dead is not just a text, it's a work of art.
Yeah. I mean, imagine these vibrant illustrations painted on papyrus scrolls depicting scenes from the afterlife in such incredible detail.
It's like a graphic novel from ancient Egypt.
Totally. And I read that these illustrations weren't just decorative.
Right.
They actually played an integral role in guiding the deceased through the afterlife.
Exactly. They believed that the images had power and that they could actually influence the journey of the soul.
So they're not just pretty pictures. They're like magical maps.
That's a great way to put it. And these illustrations offer us another layer of understanding of ancient Egyptian beliefs. We can see how they envisioned the afterlife, the gods, the demons, the landscapes. It's all there in vivid detail.
And it's not just about the afterlife itself, right?
Right.
The illustrations often depict scenes from the deceased's life, their accomplishments, their relationships.
Absolutely. It was a way of preserving their memory and identity for eternity.
It's like they're creating a visual legacy, a way of saying, this is who I was and this is how I want to be remembered.
Exactly. And it's important to remember that the Book of the Dead wasn't a single fixed text. It evolved over centuries with variations in content and style depending on the individual and the time period.
So it wasn't a one-size-fits-all kind of deal.
Not at all. The wealthy could afford elaborate versions with more spells and intricate illustrations, while those with more modest means might have had simpler versions with just the essentials.
It's interesting how, even in death, social status seems to have played a role.
It's true, but it also shows how adaptable and personalized the Book of the Dead could be. It was a reflection of the individual's life, their beliefs, and their hopes for the afterlife.
And I think that's one reason why it continues to fascinate us today. It's a testament to the human desire to understand death and the afterlife, to find meaning and purpose in the face of the unknown.
Absolutely. It's a journey that every culture grapples with in its own way. But the Book of the Dead offers us a unique and incredibly detailed glimpse into how one civilization sought to navigate this universal human experience.
And even though we may not share all of their specific beliefs, there's something deeply resonant about their quest for immortality, their longing for connection with the divine, their desire to leave a lasting mark on the world.
It makes you think about your own life, your own legacy, what you want to leave behind.
What would your version of the Book of the Dead look like? What stories would you want to tell? What images would you want to preserve?
That's a powerful question to consider. And I think exploring the Book of the Dead can inspire us to reflect on our own values, our own beliefs, and our own journey through life.
I agree. It's a reminder that even though we live in a very different world than the ancient Egyptians, we still share many of the same fundamental hopes and fears, the same longing for meaning and purpose, and the same fascination with the mysteries of life and death.
And that's what makes the Book of the Dead such a timeless and compelling text. It speaks to us across centuries, reminding us of our shared humanity and our enduring quest to understand the universe and our place within it.
Well said. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the ancient Egyptian Book of the Dead. It's been an incredible journey of discovery, and we hope you've enjoyed exploring this fascinating text with us.
Oh,
Until next time, keep seeking knowledge, keep asking questions, and keep diving deep.